All right, I think we're ready to go. Almost. There we go. Hello, friends. Turn down this volume. We don't need that up. And hello on YouTube and on Facebook. We will find out if this is going to work. My apologies again to the YouTube people. I'm using my old camera, which is not quite as stout and dependable as the new one. New one will be ordered shortly. So if I drop out on you, and if you want to continue the broadcast, switch on over to YouTube. Just do a search for Dan Nelson on YouTube. All right, let me show you what I'm doing. First of all, back in my downstairs studio, I feel like back in the saddle again after 3 weeks of almost nothing but portraits. I'm going back to my native language, which is this Cityscape. Sorry, it's at a bad angle for you. It's our downtown Raleigh, Fayetteville Street. I've painted it more than any other single subject, I'm sure. And yeah, this is a commission painting. So I'm very glad to have the opportunity to do this painting for my friend Mr. Scott and Melissa. And let's get started. So some of you Facebook friends, perhaps, if you haven't been following me on YouTube, you've never seen this part. Oh, let's get legal. Go daily art of inch number 886. Can you believe it? Been doing this for 3 years and 3 months now. All right, how do I being Dan Nelson, being of sound mind, how do I start my portraits? Hang on just a second. I'm going to show you. Well, there's going to be a lot of cool down here and right here in the middle. So that means if there's going to be a lot of cool, that means I want to do a lot of warm in that part of the painting. And I also want to make marks that couldn't possibly be construed, or that won't parallel the subject matter, okay? So I'm doing abstract marks, essentially doing an abstract painting, that's right. But making marks that are as far removed from the subject matter as possible. All right, so that part of the painting is going to be warm. This part right in here is going to be cool. No, I said that wrong. This part of the painting is going to be cool, therefore I did warm. This part of and again, I'm looking at my photograph up here. This part right in here is going to be warm. So that means I want to do some cool colors, blues, maybe some greens. I've got a couple blues here, phthalo and ultramarine. And again, just wanting to make sure that my marks are antithetical, that's a good word, to the finishing marks. Whatever the final marks are going to be, I want these to be contrary. That's enough of that for the moment. I've got here some little watercolor sticks, kind of like watercolored pencils or watercolor cakes, but they're in stick form. Now, if any of you have ever seen some of my finished watercolor I don't mean that at all. My finished abstract paintings, that's what I mean to say. My finished, I do have a couple hundred abstract paintings on my, I think it is a couple hundred, on my website, dannelsonart.com. And if you go there and look at them, you'll see there actually is a correlation between these marks that I just made and my finished abstract paintings. My abstracts are heavily focused on kinesthetic movements. That is, my paintings, my abstracts have a lot of this, the motion, the movement of the artist, the movement of the artist's arms in them. That's a conscious decision on my part. When I look at other people's abstract paintings, very often that's what I like best about their abstract work as well, is the movement of the artist. It's just one category of abstract, in my opinion. I've got 6 categories of abstract painting: materials focused, process focused, kinesthetic focused, image focused, composition design focused, and I'm missing one off the top of my head, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I've posted that document on my YouTube page several times. Now that I'm talking to Facebook people, I've got a one-page document that outlines, again, what I call the 6 categories of abstract painting. And I'll go ahead and give you the punchline of that document. Okay, so if you were a student and said, "So, Mr. Teacher Dan, which do you think is the best approach to abstract painting?" And my answer would be all 6. Utilize, employ, take it. Oh, one is chance. That's right. So they're not in, I gave them to you there, but you might have to replay that to get them all. I seem to be in a very curvy mood today, don't I? Yeah, that's a little bit too much. A little bit. I think I want some straight lines to go on top of those curves. As soon as I decide where, I'll do some straight marks. Nice purple marks, isn't it pretty? And a little bit of spatter, hang on. I can't do a lot of spatter here in my indoor studio, but I can do a little bit. I say that all these paintings that are hanging on the wall behind me, yes, yes, sad to say, they do all have spatters on them. Occupational hazard. Positional hazard, actually, isn't it? I'm going to do some more white now. Anybody saying anything? Yep. Hello, Stephanie Hester. Good to see your name. Hello, Judy. No, this is acrylics. Hello, Courtney. And hello, Nicholas Bravo. Good, good, good. Good to have all you guys here. No, this is acrylics. Now, the watercolor sticks that I showed you a minute ago, those indeed, those were watercolors. As soon as watercolor gets mixed up with an acrylic medium, it turns into acrylic. If you take, that was these little sticks. I'm going to use some of them again. I've got kind of a lime green color in my hand at the moment. Ooh, that was a nice line. Hey, well, speaking of lines, at least one more medium I want to use here, and that is these black pencils, which I will use throughout much of the painting process, of course. All right, now let's do some white stuff. If you are not an old regular, if you're not familiar with my work, you should be, I tell you, you should be full of questions at this moment. Mostly the question would be like, what in the world are you doing? Once again, let me show you. Here's the image. Here's my photo reference. That's the subject matter that I'm going to be painting. Got it? Okay. And by increasing degrees, it's hard to say, when did I start this crazy, abstract underpainting thing? And that is a hard question to answer because it came by degrees. It came by stages. It reached its maybe full, if you will. It's always, I mean, everything I do is always evolving slightly. But I would say the real concentrated or focused, intentional, abstract painting underneath all my representational paintings, except my portraits. And by the way, that I'm looking forward to the day, I am truly looking forward to the day when I actually begin my portraits the same way. The only reason I don't do that now is because I just feel like at the moment my portrait work just needs, I just need work capturing a likeness. And that's, if you've been watching me the last 3 weeks, hey, I counted up, it took me exactly 3 weeks to do 12 portraits. So I guess that's not too bad. Some of them, the first batch of 6 are posted here and there, Facebook and so on. I'll get the next set posted. All right, so the next question, besides what in the world are you doing, is why are you doing it? Why do I do an abstract painting underneath my representational painting? And that is a very good question. That is not easy to answer, but I'll give it a quick whack. The reason is because I want lots of happy accidents on my canvas, in my painting, when I get down to the finishing layers, especially what I call the final edit layer, which is the layer where, just as it sounds, where I decide what stays and what goes. In the final edit layer, when I'm really painting the picture, so to speak. Mispronouncing that word on purpose for some reason. When I'm down at the layers where I'm actually very intentionally painting the picture, I want there to be lots of accidental, you could say chaos, visual chaos, but I want beautiful chaos, of course. Now, this is what I'm about to tell you is a very important principle. I have absolutely no idea which of these marks are going to be visible in the finished painting. No idea whatsoever. Not my job, so to speak. Not my job to know what's going to be visible and what's going to be completely covered up. All right? What is my job, therefore, is to make sure that all the marks on the canvas that I'm putting there right now are attractive marks. That's all I care about, is that they're all interesting or attractive. If I wanted to get into philosophical trouble, I could say, I could call them beautiful marks, but there's no reason to open that Pandora's box. Let's just say I want all of my marks to be interesting or attractive, okay? Because I have no idea which ones are going to be visible. Rinsing out these brushes with great vigor. Hello, Mary Margaret Steele. Good to see you as well. And Judy Finch and Paul Scaturo and David Mercer. Yeah, are you on both channels, David? The scene is, I'm done with portraits for a while because I don't have any more commissions. If you guys want me to do some more some more portraits, then you have to send me some photographs and pay me $350 per person, which is outrageously cheap. I hope you understand that. This offer will not last forever. I'm doing them, so I call it my coronavirus special. We're all in crisis, so I'm giving you crisis prices. Crisis prices. Crisis prices. And because I am using it as practice. So again, in the last 3 weeks, I did exactly 12 portraits. So that's some pretty good practice, eh? And have I learned some things? You bet. Hard to put them all in words, but I definitely learned some things. Going to do another layer of washes. Yeah, welcome especially to those of you who on Facebook who have probably never seen me do this before. See, I have a small faithful cadre of viewers on YouTube who have been watching me do this stuff and watching it develop even in real time. They watched me evolve for the last 3 years. I'll say even one of the recent evolutionary developments that have taken place in my painting process is that my initial abstract painting used to be considerably simpler than this. And if I'm doing something like painting at an event or painting at a wedding or something, yes, I do start my wedding paintings this exact way. But I don't spend quite this much time. This is a painting that I expect. This particular painting is a commission from my good friend Scott. Thank you very much, Scott. But I expect to be painting on it for 4 days probably. It is 36 by 60, or 3 by 5 feet. A real nice size. The only thing that would make it nicer would be if it was 4 by 6 feet. But that didn't fit on Scott's wall, so that's right. We'll settle and be thankful for 4 by 5 foot painting. I don't have much green in here yet, and yeah, this could be. Oh, isn't that nice? See, that's the sound. That's the sound of a real abstract artist. Throwing stuff down and then saying, "Ooh, that's nice." Okay, to prove that I don't really know how it's going to turn out, right? You know, when I propose a mark, it is just that. I'm proposing a mark. Just about done with this layer. I'm going to do one last layer of white, I believe. At least I think it's last layer. Yeah, now let's go to white again. And one of the funny little things I've discovered doing this crazy abstract stuff underneath, that the one color, so to speak, quote unquote, the one color that I'm doing here that I am quite sure is in fact, yes, going to still show in the final painting is in fact white, not because it will show up as white, but because it will show up as texture. The white paint, as you, I don't know if you can tell, is a little bit thicker. I'm applying it a little bit more thickly than the colored abstract. And for that reason, many of these white marks will in fact still be, there's a little bit of rhythm there. How about that? Wow. These white marks will be visible as texture, as brush strokes underneath the finished painting. Now we could spend many minutes, couldn't we, talk for some of you describing, so I don't get it. I don't get abstract paintings. I was in dialogue with a number of other artists across the country, in fact, yesterday, and we were evaluating an abstract painter, and there were several people who were saying, okay, I just don't quite get abstract, and that I understand that confusion. I've shared it for many years. But somewhere along the line, the abstract light bulb came on. Well, all paintings are abstract, no matter how realistic they are. The most photorealistic painting in the world is abstract, right? Let's say it's a painting of a cow. Well, why is a photorealistic painting of a cow abstract? Well, it doesn't poop or moo or milk or move, and you can't put out in your. You understand? It's not real. It's a two-dimensional abstract. So all paintings are abstract, no matter how realistic they are. So you do, if you like any kind of art, painting at all, let's say, if you like any kind of painting at all, you do like abstract painting, because that's the only kind to like. I'm playing a little bit of semantics with you, of course. But on a deeper level, it's true. All paintings are abstract. Wow. Well, that's an interesting mess. All right, I'm going to stop with the abstract. And I do not need to wait for this to dry. Hallelujah. Because I don't like waiting. Years ago, when I sort of early started this approach to painting, I actually frequently used to start 4, 5, 6 paintings all at the same time for the very reason so that I wouldn't have to wait for a layer to dry. What is the main thing that has changed is I've learned some techniques that let me paint wet and wet without any deleterious effect. Don't you like that word? Deleterious. Oh, hey, my spray bottle just fell down, which makes me think. Let's get some more drips in here. Yeah. Ooh. Let's get some of that green dripping down, running down. That red right there. And this white right here. All right, so now the next step is I am actually going to start drawing the subject matter. David pointing out that my left hand is getting lazy. Yes, my walls are full of spattered paint. All right, so I'll point you, I won't zoom in, but again, there's my reference up there. It's a painting of Fayetteville Street, the main street in our city, Raleigh, North Carolina. Looking south, this is the Memorial Auditorium where the symphony plays and Broadway musicals come through town. That's at the end of the street. Behind me here is the Capitol building. I'm actually standing on the grass or on the sidewalk of the Capitol grounds looking south. This is a morning shot. I have edited it quite a bit. I've exaggerated the light. I've done a whole bunch of things with light. I've also added cars and pedestrians and so forth. So that's what I'm looking at. Oh, and as you can see, I put a few lines here. There's 2 red lines, a tic-tac-toe, that are divided by thirds. And there's a white line, right? So that's just there. I did that in Photoshop just because it make my painting, capturing just a little bit easier. So I'm going to start with one of the most prominent lines in the whole painting. Comes just below halfway, then way up here at this corner. So right now I am outlining, drawing buildings, just plain old-fashioned, if you will, drawing stuff with straight lines, okay? And this is, you'll see, part of the, why don't I have to wait for this to dry? The answer is because it doesn't matter a bit if I drag these colored lines through wet paint. It just makes it more interesting. It doesn't matter if I mess. Okay, by the way, I'm trying to place my vanishing point. I think it's right there. That's of course subject to change at a later stage in the process. Okay, now let me talk a little bit about my mindset, the way I work when it comes to drawing, initial drawing, laying in. Some people would call it laying in the subject matter. So it's not like blocking, right? It's quite different from blocking. It's similar in that it's my initial guess as to where things go. But here's the main thing, especially if there are any students or early journey painters. Let me see, third. Let me find thirds. Yeah, if there are any early journey artists watching me, here's the one of the main principles I want you to get a hold of. Okay, now let me think. Halfway, it's right about there. It is this. One could argue that it's premature for me to start throwing down such bold marks like this. That would be, again, a very reasonable argument. It's like, wow, I'm not, other than the third and half marks up on my reference, other than that, and I didn't put any marks on here. Other than that, I'm not using any mechanical means for capturing my subject matter. I'm really quite flying by the seat of my pants comes to mind as a good description of this, what I'm doing. And in fact, doing this would probably feel quite intimidating to most young painters, even older painters for that matter. But here, I keep stuttering, stumbling around. Here's what I want. Here's the main principle I want to emphasize. Ready? All of these marks, every single one of these marks that I'm making right now are just guesstimates. I do not put much stock in them at all. I am not confident that they're correct. Okay, that's a really important concept. Even though the marks that I'm putting down are quite bold and confident looking, they in fact are not confident. They're bold. Boy, there's no question. You know, those are lines. But what saves me, so to speak, if you will. Again, I'm looking for thirds. I think that's a third right there. What saves me is that I give myself ample permission, lots and lots and lots and lots of permission to change my mind later. Hang on. I'm not sure that's right. No. Okay, so here's my first change of mind right here. Now, let me say hi to anybody else who's watching. Hello, Sybil. Good to have you here. It looks like, David, it looks like my Facebook stream is working. Wait a minute. Are you on Facebook, David? You are, right? Yeah, you are. Okay. Looks like it's being quite dependable. That is very strange. It's usually not dependable at all. Hello, Barbara. Yes, this is another commission. It's my last one during the COVID-19, so I'm sure hope I get some more. All right, so I just drew that line right there just to represent the edge of one of those tall buildings, and all of a sudden I go, now, let me back up, because that is expressly what I do not do. When I discover a mistake, I don't go, oh, wrong, as I like to say, again, being a little silly, witness my distress. In other words, I ain't got none. No distress. So that's sort of one of the key principles of my early stages of rendering a subject matter, is just take a guess, and don't worry about it too much. Why? Because you're going to change your mind many, many times. Now here's a little bit of, whoops, and I think I'm changing my mind again, right there. I think that line was too high, so I'm bringing it down. Here's a really interesting principle, dynamic, reality, whatever you want to call it. Well, if you're an early journey painter, please try to let this sink in. That not only is it okay if some of my marks are wrong, erroneous, misplaced, in the wrong place, to be corrected at a later date. Not only is it okay if some of my marks are wrong, it's actually distinctly good. There's an advantage to my marks being wrong. Now, boy, are you hearing that? It's like, what? It's better if some of them are wrong? You heard me right. That is exactly correct. It is actually better if some of my marks are wrong. That requires a little explanation. By the way, I think, speaking of wrong, I think my vanishing point is in the wrong place. I'm going to move it over. So now I have to go back and redraw a few lines. Okay, so I got some explaining to do. What do you mean? How in the world can it be beneficial? All right, it's pretty easy to explain, actually, to demonstrate. Let's take this big bold line right there. I got a whole bunch of them. Let's just pick that one because it's the building and this is sky. Some of these others are, subsets of inside of buildings, but this is a real strong one. Let's imagine that I accidentally put this line right here, accidentally, so to speak, in exactly the right place, so that 16 layers from the bottom, that's roughly how many, maybe more, that's about how many layers are going to go into this painting. This is layer number 2, right? Layer number 1 was abstract, number 2 is right now. So 14, 15 more layers. In the final analysis, if this ends up being in the right place, that means, in a sense, I'll keep drawing that line over and over and over. When I'm all done, that will be a rock hard, hard-edged line. Whereas if I discover over the 16 layers, oh, you move it a little to the left, oh, move it to the right, left, right, left, right. When I get to the final stages, there will be a whole constellation of lines, a whole collection of lines. And of course, I'll decide in the final edit which one is correct, so to speak. Now, David thinks my vanishing point is too high. Maybe it could go there. It's very hard to say. Also, there's a hill. I'm on a hill. The street goes down a dip and then comes back. So it's pretty hard to determine exactly. So if I make mistakes, quote unquote, again, no stress, no sweat, no shame, no embarrassment about my mistakes. So wouldn't it be nice to make mistakes and not be embarrassed about it? Well, that's exactly what I'm proposing to you. It's in the course of making many mid-course corrections that the painting takes on a lot of its charm, a lot of its beauty. In fact, I heard many years ago now, some art expert who said that one of the differences between illustration and fine art is that fine art reflects struggle. Like people can actually now, with modern science, and actually do X-rays of master paintings and see how they, now the beauty was there before they could do X-rays, but the X-rays just prove that the master actually changed his mind several times in the course of the painting. And it is, in fact, that changing of mind that creates much of the beauty. I'm convinced, I think it's true, that creates much of the beauty in a painting, a representational painting. All right, bear with me just a moment here. According to all that, if that drawing is essentially correct, which it may not be, then in fact, yes, my vanishing point was in the wrong place. Not too low though, but a little bit too far to the left, a little bit too far to the right. So once again, that's the second time that I've moved. Second time I've moved my vanishing point, maybe third. Let me just continue to do some outlining. So here's, by the way, here's how I think I'm going to proceed with my broadcasting of this painting. I'll be painting for, again, several days here on this painting, which is, by the way, one of the big changes that has taken place in my painting in the last year and a half, year and a third. I used to finish most of my paintings, the great majority, in one session or in one day. Now, that would be a 6 or 7 hour session. You know, I'm not talking about some kind of crazy, you know, performance art, flash painting or something like that. No. It's still a lot of work, but still in one setting. Well, that has changed quite. One of the changes that has happened in my approach to painting in the last 15, 16 months is that I simply take longer. Again, partly because I have more layers than I used to, more stages. I'm looking for the third mark again. Where's the third? I think that's a third. I've done this, as I said, painted this street. It's the single subject that I've painted more than any other in my 15 years of being an fine arts oil painter, plein air painter. Of course, I'm not doing plein air today, am I? I don't know. I've painted it well over 100 times. Somebody said to me, years ago, probably 10 years ago, one of my young friends said, Dan, you're not going to get famous painting Raleigh. And somehow, either in a flash of hubris, of which I am fully capable, or in a flash of spectacular insight, without really thinking, I said, I don't expect to get famous because I painted Raleigh. I expect Raleigh to get famous because I painted it. So there you go, either hubris or spectacular, prophetic, if you will, insight. And the jury's still out. I have one great example in this regard, by the way. The most, well, Gaverny, the Gardens at Gaverny, Monet would be one great and classic example of this. But another would be Andrew Wyeth. Andrew Wyeth, basically the last 50 years of his life or something like that, painted one farm, painted nothing but one farm, essentially. Do you remember that? Do you know that? I forget. If I weren't broadcasting, I'd be able to tell you the name of the farm. But okay. You guys have got to see this. All right. So the tail end of this brush just hit one of my. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jars of brushes here on this tabaret, and there goes one of them. So I can think of a lot of worse things that have happened in my life, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'll pick them up after I end this broadcast. But it was a pretty sound, though, wasn't it? What do 50 brushes sound like when they hit the floor? Well, now you know. Hello, Richard Williams. Glad to have you live. Hello, Amanda. Oh, my goodness. Oh, what fun. Glad to have you on board. And Rebecca Lawson-Caruth, good to have you here. Anyway, so like I said, it really, when my friend said, you're not going to get famous painting Raleigh. And I said, I don't expect to get famous painting Raleigh. I expect Raleigh to be famous because I painted it. Now, again, outrageous hubris, that means pride, arrogance, or truly an accidental prophetic truth. Prophetic in the sense of predict, and I hope it's the latter, of course, but it's not my job to make that come true. It's only my job to paint the best I can. Anyway, why have I painted the street so much? The, the reason is because it's my hometown. This is where I live. That's the main reason. And it's the most interesting street in our town because of course it's the main street, right? There are a couple others. South Glenwood would be the next most interesting street in our town. Again, another. I painted that quite a bit too. But part of what I want to say, honestly, besides the fact that I have painted it 100 times, is that why doesn't it get old? Well, first of all, I don't know that I've ever painted it from this exact vantage point. Now, I do know that I've painted it from about 10 or 15 feet over that way, but that makes a big difference. And I painted it from it, but more importantly than that, all the previous times that I painted it, over the last 15 years, I was never me. I was never what I am today. I'm a different artist today than I was 3 months ago, 2 months ago, last month. All right, I just finished in the last 3 weeks doing 12 portraits. And that's a completely, boy, talk about a mental workout. Anyway, so I'm a different painter than I am today. In fact, tomorrow I'll be a different painter than I am today, which is always an exciting adventure because many times you can't match. I don't know if you know this or not. Tomorrow, when you or I come back to a painting that we've worked on, started today, you can't match your marks. You can't make the same marks tomorrow that you were making today. You can't. I'm being pretty fussy. You can make pretty close, of course, but no, you can't make it. I've witnessed that, experienced that many times over the years. It's like, wow, I was making either, and sometimes I'm really thrilled with the marks I made yesterday. Other times, not so thrilled, you know? All right, so I've got some really big lines, or the big buildings. And again, I don't expect that they're all correct. And that's perfectly fine. One of the characteristics I have witnessed about early journey painters is that they are loath to change their mind. Once they've made a mark in drawing, whether it's the edge of a nose in a portrait, or an eyebrow, or at the top of a lip, they're very slow, reluctant to make corrections. I understand that impulse too. The reason is, unless it sounds like I'm being critical, let me explain why. Because drawing is hard work. Rendering, copying something. In fact, it is, in my opinion, and I've certainly read this several places, it's some of the best, what I'm doing right now is some of the best brain ups you can do, some of the best neurological exercise you can do is try to copy something by eye, just look and draw. So it's hard work. Your brain is working really hard, and it's exhausting, frankly. So the beginner painter wants to get over that stage as quickly as possible, and wants to get on with painting. Like, oh, I just want to paint. I don't want to draw, right? So the beginner often short circuits and refuses to make corrections. So I'm not sure refuse is the word, but is slow to make corrections. And I, on the other hand, I think I've trained myself. I'm very quick to change my mind and make changes to the painting. I'm doing some of the major windows and so forth in this building right here. When I started painting, you could say. Now let me explain quickly. I was a full-time professional artist for many, many years, 30 years, before I started doing oil painting. Okay, so when I say when I started painting, please don't be confused by that. I don't mean that I started painting 20 years ago. No. I started painting when I was 5. That's pretty true. But when I started fine arts painting, so to speak, oil painting, plein air painting, gallery painting, selling oil paintings in a gallery, I found myself, very early on, very drawn to cityscapes, and I still am. Cityscapes is what I paint more than anything else. And there's, I think, 2 reasons for that. One is because I like cities, I like civilization, I like humanity. I'm not among those who thinks that if you went to university in the last 30 years, you're indoctrinated with a worldview that believes that human beings are of blight and create in reality. But I don't share that opinion with you at all, to say the least. Anyway, so I like civilization, but the real reason the main reason that I'm so drawn to cityscapes or architecture is because I love the juxtaposition of straight lines, architecture, and organic shapes. So in this, let me point you at the subject, at the reference one more time. In this is very typical cityscape. There are a number of trees. Big tree right here that I was, very conscious of, very careful to include in the photograph, and the street, of course, is lined with trees. Now, this is my favorite time of year for trees. It's springtime, and so the leaves are just coming out, so you can still see through the leaves, through the trees to a considerable degree. In another couple weeks, these will be in full leaf and quite opaque. Be that as it may, these are organic shapes against the straight lines of the architecture. Then I call cars organic shapes, by the way. So there's bushes, pedestrians are organic, bushes, pedestrians, and vehicles. All of that is organic. There's pedestrian there, and I might add a couple more in addition to what's already there. So that is the artistic reason why I like doing cityscapes. My mind is, for both reasons. I really do. I like architecture. I like human beings. I like civilization. I like cities. All of those things are true. I love painting old Victorian houses, buildings. I love painting. I wish I lived in Europe where there was a bunch of castles, but alas, I don't. We have one major Gothic structure here in the triangle of North Carolina, that is Duke Chapel. I think it's one of those, well, no, I think the stones were cut out in Italy somewhere and brought over here, numbered and brought over here one stone at a time kind of thing. I have one major car right here at the moment. It's like, why did I put that there? Now it requires drawing. I have to draw that car. What was I thinking? I used to be pretty abstract and sloppy and careless in my rendering of vehicles. I changed my ways. Now I'm quite careful in my, those are trees and stuff, by the way, trees and other vertical marks. One of the ways I describe a city street at street level is a veritable forest of vertical marks. Trees, traffic lights, signs, no parking, yes parking, parking meters. So just literally hundreds of vertical marks looking down any city street. So that's just a one. I can come in here and just go like this, and just start making a whole bunch of marks. And most of those marks will end up being something in the later stages. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just a second. Let me count up here. How many stories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow. So there's about 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not quite enough. All right, close enough. Oh, let me get some different brushes and block in. I am going to block in now. Block in this big tree over here at the left. And then I will be ready to take a little break. I'll end this broadcast. I called the broadcast Initial Stages in Cityscape, and I think I've accomplished that objective. So, like, I can legally, so to speak, end the broadcast. Actually, I'm looking at the reference at the photograph quite a bit, more than you might think for doing something as vague and abstract as a tree. But indeed, that would be one of my instructions about painting, learning how to paint trees. Don't just paint quote-unquote trees. Paint that tree. Paint this tree. Paint a specific tree. Copy this tree. Don't just paint, abstract. Oh yeah, tree. I see that's a mistake I see a lot of early journey painters make. Oh yeah, tree. And they just paint out of their head. Of course, it's terrible because they haven't studied trees. If you want to paint a good tree, you have to, just like everything else, you have to study trees to get them good. A little bit of blocking in here. All right. I'm going to call that good enough. Now, now this all does need to dry. When I come back, probably in 15 minutes or so, I'm going to do two things in pretty quick order. Back to big brushes again. I'm going to glaze whatever colors I want. Sometimes orange here. I'm sorry, you can't see let me see if I bring this down. You can see the reference and the painting at the same time. Yeah, I'm going to do where the sun is hitting these. I'm going to do that yellow-orange, and so just glazes. A lot of blue. There, purple, blue, cool stuff. And then, without waiting for those glazes to dry, I'll do my first layer of white. I'm thinking. All right, but I won't think on your time. I'll think after I hang up on you. Okay, thanks for watching, y'all. Appreciate you watching and appreciate you leaving a chat and a comment. Like I said, I hope to be back in about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, bye.